Last time we used this format for a long while, I swear. I just forgot Snakewife got her IS module with the same patch as the Art Defender gang, and I didn't want to group her in with them. So anyway, now for the proper tangent. This module review will be more for you guys who aren't madly obsessed with Hall, like, well, us degenerates, because let's be honest, we Hall simps will cope so hard on this module, and are already going to give it the full free module box it asked for, no questions asked. Let's get this out of the way now. The whole IS module is neat, but ultimately fails to compete against other cast options in the IS setting. Let's break this down. For the whole IS module, there's a bunch of things it does, but let's break it down simply. It gives you the Mod X upgrades, it puts a heavy emphasis on the levitation mechanic, and it wants you to leak for benefits, which is certainly a gimmick of all time. Like, you know that thing that can end your run? Yeah, do that so your middling waifu can get like a one-time use benefit. I mean, it's a good benefit, but the idea of this gimmick is truly deserving of the title of gimmick. The only other IS module that I think that gets this silly is probably Swai's IS module, and that's just turning vast amounts of wealth into raw power, like she's Fitzgerald from Bongo Stray Dogs. God, that's a series I need to catch up on. Anyway, the main point of this module is the objective shield. It gives you once per a deployment and the ability to apply levitate on all units for 15 seconds for each time you would leak for the first time on a map, which is arguably huge. Even once we count for the fact that time is most likely definitely cut in half because of Weedy's sins, that is a 7.5 second worth of CC that is buying you time to eliminate that potential leaker and patch holes in your deployment, which is cool, but let's be honest, that is just federally a relic. Like, if it did damage while enemies were under this effect, like Angie's IS module, I think this definitely would bring up the power level of this module. At least we can get like a free objective shield per deployment on a map, which makes this module worthwhile on the high end of IS where leaking would be more likely to happen. So being able to have a way to stack objective shields early on in a run would definitely make it a valuable starter pick, but wasting a starter slot on a Hall that early for just that is rough. Thankfully, this does come with one extra thing worth discussing. With the mod fee, Hall gets one thing that doesn't turn her into a glorified relic, and it's quite simple. Hall's skills now does splash damage now, and that splash damage can also levitate if the skill is applying it. This is low-key fucking amazing, and definitely does not warp the game if they just took this and made it a delta. But they won't do that, because deltas are now only for forcing random operators into niches that they don't belong in. But no, like seriously, this saves Hall for me in IS runs because it just makes her a great crowd controlling operator without using her more expensive alternatives like Splashcasters, especially seeing she's always applying silence with levitate and extra damage too. Like, her SV actually feels good to use now because we can make use of its obscene damage potential by just letting it be applied wider with the splash damage, and her S2 and S1 are good for those early stages where you can't afford the long downtimes on skills. This is a very nice addition to an underwhelming caster in a very popular game mode, but there's always caveats to this sort of shit. First, if you don't have Hall built to begin with, you aren't building her for this module. No matter how much jerking off I will give this thing, it's not worth the effort to build an operator you only will be using in a single gameplay mode, especially if that module isn't worth the effort. Trust me, I know. Second of all, even if you have the IS Hall module and like a decently invested Hall, so not what mine is, you 100% already have better IS caster picks built already. Like, come on, Gonglow's a huge one here, but there's also like Eblana, Logos, Mantra, Click, and so forth. It's just hard to justify the resource cost to recruit her when there's just like better options in casters. Thirdly, levitate will always just be bad as long as it can't be applied to certain enemies such as most bosses and some elites. This is also what holds back Angie's equally meh IS module, and hopefully not Irene's module in future, but we'll see. Like, we can make levitate as OP as we want in IS, but the second is not applicable, it's just pointless. And we could have just invested in options that work all the time instead of most of the time. As a whole fan, I think it's a good IS module for having fun, but unless I know that run is guaranteed to win, I'm not going to be recruiting her. Anyway, that's it for this video. I'm going to take my nap now before I do the Dolphy video that I promised for 500 subs.